how to analyze data and build machine learning models. Hey there, welcome to my video, and in this video we will be doing an end-to-end machine learning project. So if you're new to all this and have no idea what machine learning is, well, here is a brief description of what machine learning is. So machine learning is basically using an algorithm to learn different patterns in data, and taking that algorithm to make predictions of the future using similar data. So machine learning is basically building models. Each and every code that you try to reproduce will be towards achieving this one goal. Yes, so that's the importance why I'm giving you the description of what machine learning is. So that was just an introduction. Now let me also introduce you to the project that we're going to be building today. So the project that we're going to be working on today is a project that I got from Kaggle. So Kaggle again is a platform where you can get different data sets for different projects if you would love to build projects. So let's get to Kaggle. Let's get to Kaggle and try to do a manual exploration of the data that we're going to be using to build this project. All right, let me switch to my computer. Let me switch to Kaggle. Now I'll be providing the link to the data set in Kaggle. If you want to follow along, you can go to Kaggle and download the data set, and you can follow along as we're building this project together. So why I'm taking you through the project is, you see, in machine learning, before we build any project, it's always very important that we understand the data that we're trying to deal with before we can build a model. At the end of the day, it's about solving a problem. We're building a machine learning model to solve a problem. So it's important that we get to understand our data. We have to understand all the small details that our data has. So now the project that we're going to be working on is a project from, we just try to have a manual exploration of the data before we can actually jump into the real code and start writing the code and try to do the exploration using the different tools that we shall be using. Okay, now let me switch to Kaggle. Let me switch to Kaggle, just a second. All right, now this is Kaggle. So the project that we're going to be working on it's a blue book for bulldozers. So this is the link. If you would like, I've provided it in the description. So we're predicting. Predict the auction sale price for a piece of heavy equipment to create a blue book for bulldozers. So basically in this project we shall be predicting a price. Now a price is a number. We shall be predicting a number. So in machine learning, when you're predicting a number, it's called a regression problem. So this is a regression type of problem in machine learning. So Kaggle provides us with data. Now let's try to see what the data is. For this competition, you are predicting the sale price of bulldozers sold at auctions. Yes, we know that the data for this competition is split into 3 parts. So Kaggle has given us data split in 3 parts. There is a trained data in CSV format, there is a valid, and there is a test of valid is a training set. So this is the data set that we shall be using to train our model. We shall be seeing that later, which contains data through the end of 2011. Okay, then valid CSV is the validation set. So this is the data set that we shall be using as a validation set in our machine learning model, which contains data from January 2012 to April 30th, 2012. You make predictions on this throughout the majority of the competition. You score on this is used to create the public leadership. And then the test CSV is a test which won't be released until the last week of the competition. It contains data from May 1st, 2012 to November 20. Your scores on this test data determines your final rank for the competition. So this is the data that Kaggle has given us, a featured data that we're going to use to predict the prices after we have trained our model, we have validated our model, and we've done all the necessary steps. We've tried different things, we've tried to experiment with our data, and we're good, we're satisfied that, okay, now our model is at least performing well. We shall use this data to predict the prices, and at the end of the day, we shall be submitting them to Kaggle, and Kaggle will rank us. So the key fields for the trained CSV are sales ID, the unique ID of the cell, machine ID, the unique identifier of a machine. A machine can be sold multiple times. The sell price, what the machine sold for at auction, only provided in the trained CSV. So this is only provided in the trained CSV. Then there is a cell, the date of the cell. So it's again, that means it's a time series. I'll be explaining to you what a time series is. There are several fields towards the end of the file on the different options a machine can have. The descriptions all start with the machine configuration in the data dictionary. Some product types do not have a particular option, so all the records for this option variable will be null. Then the machine appendix file contains the correct year manufactured for a given machine along with the make, model, predict, the product class details. There is one machine ID for every machine in all the competition data sets, training, evaluation, etc. So you can download the data set. You're going to find a data dictionary that contains all the fields of the data that Kaggle has given us and the descriptions, what the fields are. I've already done that. You can view it in Excel. I'm not going to be doing, but if you want to follow along, it's important, you'll have to do it. All right, so that's about the data. Now, another important thing is the evaluation metrics for the competition. Now, after we've built our model, how are we going to define if our model is good, the success? How do we know our model is doing? So Kaggle tells us we're going to use something called the evaluation metric. Okay, the evaluation metrics for this competition is the root mean squared log error between the actual and the predicted auction price. So this is the evaluation that we're going to be using. So this will be a number. So so we shall try to get this number as low as possible as when you're trying to experiment with our model. If you're trying to improve our model, to say that our model is performing well, we shall have to get this number as low as possible. Yes, to the sample file. So Kaggle tells us as you're submitting, after they provide us with the test, and after we've predicted the prices, we have to format our results in this format, and then we submit to Kaggle and they can rank us. So that's a manual exploration of the data. Now let's go and try to look at the real data analysis. Now I'm going to be using Jupyter notebooks for this. So now we're going to be going through our framework. I already have my Jupyter notebooks, and the code is actually I did this before so that I could make the video fast. I don't want the video to take a very long time, as typing all this will take a lot of time. So I prepared this in advance. So now we're going to be using a framework, a machine learning model framework. We're going to be using a framework as we're trying to achieve the end goal of the model, as you're trying to build the model. So a framework is like a pipeline that we shall be following. So first, problem definition for this. Now all this, we have all this that I've described here in the framework is what we've already looked at from Kaggle, what Kaggle exactly. So I just try to replicate it into our framework, so that it can give me a sort of a pipeline on what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it. Now let's start. Okay, first we will import the data set and start exploring. Since we know the evaluation metrics, we're trying to mean our first goal will be building baseline model and see how it takes. So now let's try a step in machine learning called the E. Okay, now this step is called EDA. EDA is it's the exploratory data analysis. Here we explore the data, we manipulate it, we can transform it if need be. Actually, we're trying to see the insights into our data before we can start building the model. You know, the model we're just trying to feed, we're trying to train data into our model. So we first have to explore our data, transform it if there are missing values, all that takes place here. So I'm going to be using, first let's import the tools that we shall be using. Here we shall be using pandas, we shall be using NumPy, we shall be using matplotlib. So pandas is basically for the data analysis, all the exploration, everything. Then NumPy is for numerical calculations. And then matplotlib will be for visualizing, you know, as we're trying to see the insight, to find the insights into our data. It's always good to visualize them like in charts so that people can easily understand them. So let's start by importing our data. So pandas, so we're going to use pandas to pull. So our data is a CSV. Let's run that cell and try to see what we see what it displays. Okay. All right, we have an error. Okay, we can do away with that. I'll tell you. I'll show you. So this is our data. You can see it has only displayed for us the first five rows, and the columns we have are 53. Actually, we can. All right. So this now. What else can we now? Let's try to now. After we've imported our data, we can see we have 53 columns, but that's all we know about data. So there is a function, you know, pandas comes to hand. There is a function in pandas called info. So info is going to help us to just display the data set, to display a summary of our data set, the columns, how many columns it has, the data types of every column, you know, all that. Let's run and see that. It will make more sense when you see that. All right, my machine is kind of slow. All right, so you can see the DF is a data frame. It's a pandas data frame. Then you can see the entries. These are the number of columns. The number of rows, sorry. Then we see the number of columns, and all these are the columns. You see, all these are the columns, and the data type of each column, and then the memory usage. So that's info. So important. It has displayed. It has showed us a lot just by running that small function. You get to know so much about our data set. So now you remember there was something. Now we just passed the CSV to pandas as DFC. So pandas knows this is a data frame, but now what else does it know about data? It knows nothing about. So now if you want to start manipulating and trying to find insights, now this is the time. Remember I told you this is the time series. A time series. Now right now pandas doesn't understand it's a time series, so we have to instruct pandas that pass this column. So our column that has that is a data attribute is the cell date. Right now pandas is just saying it as an object. It doesn't know it's a date attribute. So we pass it as a date attribute. All right, so sorry, this is yes, definitely. So you see this. So this is past dates. cell date is the date attribute, the column with dates. And this is just to deal with this error that gave us at first as we were importing our data set. So let's try to run this and see, and try to display again the info. Try to display again a summary of our data and see, and try to look at that specific column, what data type it is now. All right. So let's just go to that. Let's go to that column and try to see. Boom. It's now a date time. So now pandas knows that, all right, that column is a date what? It's a date attribute. So we can answer so many questions about our date attribute. We can access the date attribute like the month. We can access the year. We can access the date. Actually, let's do that in this next cell. So here we're trying to add a month and year column, but from our date attribute column, the cell date. So this is again a function in pandas. If you don't know what it is, you can just try to Google and read more about it. So many functions. Then here I'm telling it to print the first 5 rows. But now instead of viewing it like the way we saw it here, just printing it like we saw it here, I want it to transpose. So transpose, it's going to make this as rows. It's going to make this as rows and make the columns as rows. It will make the rows as columns and make columns as rows. That's transpose. So let's run that cell and see what happens. Boom. These are the first 5. You can see these are the first 5. So it can now, why I did transpose, because I wanted it to view all the columns, including, remember up here when we're trying to view our data set, it was not printing all the columns, it was just printing a few of our columns, but not all. So here, why I'm using transpose, so that we can just view all the columns. Now let's try to look for what we've added, the 2 columns that we've added, which is the month and the year. All right. So now we've added the 2 columns. So now let's try to answer a certain question. So how was the sales performance per each month? So now we can now answer. Now this is a question that now this question we're going to have to use. We shall use the newly created. Why we created that column, the month column, is so that we can answer questions concerning about the month of our data frame. So here they tell how was the sales performance for each month. Yes, so I just chose, so this is our data frame. Then I just choose the month column. Then I say the value counts. So it's going to count and it's going to, okay, before we plot, let's try to view that. So that's it. For this month, the 3rd month, there are 5,959,300. Anyway, let's try to plot this. I think that will be better. So have you seen how, let's plot a bar graph and see. It comes handy. So how was the sales performance per month? So the month that had the most sales was the 3rd month. Then the one that had the least was the 1st month, that was Jan. While this was April that had, so you can now see, so we can try to customize, this is Matplotlib, we can try to customize our graphs to look, but I'm not going to be doing that, but that's easy. So now let's try to answer another question. How was the sales performance by the given years? So how many years do we have? So let's also try to run this cell. Let's try this now. It's going to plot for us the years. So this we are using again the column that we added from the year. So you can see we can answer so many questions about the date from the date attribute. So many questions you can answer. So you can see all this. It tells us 2009 had the most cells, and the year that had the least was 19. Anyway, this is small. So let me try to make this bigger. So I'm just trying to make this big. Well, big at least, so you can see that. So now let's try to answer again another question. How was the sales performance for each month in 2011? So yeah, we only have to choose 2011, and this is how we do it in pandas. So many other ways. Some people could be having some other ways of doing it, but I find this easier. So here we are selecting from the whole data frame. I just want you to select the year, which is 2011. Select the month column and the values count. Let's run that and see. All right, you see that? Then now let's try to also plot this. Let's try to plot a bar graph also here for each month. Now this is only for 2011. So in 2011, the most sales were in the 6th month. That was June, and the least sales were in the 11th month. In the 11th month, yeah. Then how was the sales performance for each month in the validation data set? Remember when we imported, Cargo gave us the train data set and the validation data set and the test data set. But I just went ahead and it also gave us a data set that had both the train and the validation. So I just imported the data set that had both the train and the validation. So now they are telling us the validation, but remember in Cargo told us the validation data. Actually the test data ends in 2011. Then the validation data is from Jan 2012 to April 20. So if we select the data set that doesn't have 2011, we shall be selecting the valid CSV, the validation data set, because our train data set ends in 2011. Then our validation data set is not 2011, it's 2012. So because the data set we imported is the train and the validation. Now if we want to get the validation, this is the command that we're going to, let's try to understand this. So here I'm selecting the data set for the rows that are not 2011, which is the validation data set. And I do that, and I also plot this. I also plot a bar graph for this so that you can easily visualize. All right, so you see that. So that is for the validation. So for our validation, the most was in the 3rd month, while for our train, the most was in the 6th month. Again, you can also turn that into real month and display, but I'm not going to be doing that. Then here, how were the sales as per state for the different years? Let's try to plot this also. So here it's just the same thing, the same function and everything, but this is just it has a state in it. Oh wow, mambo jumbo, a lot of things there. So let's try to make that bigger by drawing a figure, fig size. I think 10 by 6 will be it. Okay, so we can see Florida had the most cells and Washington DC had the least cells. So I think that will be it for the ADA, for the exploratory data analysis. Now next is we're going to start modeling. We're going to start with the modeling. Let me end. I don't want the video to be too long. We're already almost half an hour, so let me stop the video here. We're going to continue. The second part will be now starting with the modeling. All right. Bye for now.